Hello, this is the third and last video in a series of videos on January 6, 2021, when people broke into the White House in the United States. I'm going to do two things in this video. One, I'm going to talk briefly about the birth chart and the transits to Ashli Babbitt. She was one of the people who led the charge, you could call it, into the White House, and she was shot and died. And the first person that I heard of who had died, and we got some information about her, very strong Trump supporter. She lived in San Diego, came all the way from San Diego to Washington, D.C. to participate in the march. And, there's some video of her and so on. So we'll talk a little bit about her. We will see, it's quite fascinating, how she ties into it, even without a birth time. Usually without a birth time, we can't see anything. We got a little bit lucky. We see a little bit. And then I'm going to make a prediction about January 20, which is the next date that people are concerned about, which is the inauguration date. And will there be violence? What's going to happen? There will, is what I'm going to predict. I'll show you why. It won't be as clearly from the Trump supporters. It could come from various different sources. That's what I'm expecting. These predictions are not always correct, but they give us a better probability of what will happen. And I'm encouraging people to be very careful on January 20. I'll get to that. Let's first talk about Ashli Babbitt. Okay, this is her birth chart. I did it for 12 noon. We don't know what time she was born. We don't know where she was born. I did it for San Diego, which is where she was living. Maybe she was born on the east coast of the U.S. Maybe she wasn't even born in the U.S. I don't know. She was born on October 10th, 1985. There are records. I didn't get the website address, but there's a website address of records of something. What did she do? I forget. Some kind of court appearance or something. Anyway, it has her date of birth. I didn't expect to see anything, but I was just curious. So that's her birth chart. Here's her 13 vibration chart. In the 13 vibration chart, Sun, Mars, and Jupiter are within 13 degrees. Sun and Mars are trine Neptune. Well, there's that Mars-Neptune. There was a Mars-Saturn-Neptune configuration in the sky. I talk about that in part one of the series. So Mars, Neptune, that, a little bit of 13 vibration stuff. I can do a time adjust. I can go, let's go 6 hours earlier. 6 hours earlier. And 6 hours earlier, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter spread's only 10 degrees. And Neptune is trine Sun and Mars, Sun tightly. So going back to the birth time, spreading 13 degrees. So she was probably born at around 12 noon latest Pacific time or earlier. Because this Sun, Mars, Jupiter probably is there with some of it trining Neptune. Maybe she was born up to 2 or 3 in the afternoon Pacific time. I would be very surprised if we get her birth certificate and she's born in the evening, like late evening. I would be surprised, but maybe another planet comes in and gets involved. Most likely she's born around that time. And then we can do born early in the day. And then we can look at her 52nd vibration. Usually not any reason to do this because we don't know her birth time, so we're not sure what's going on here with the 52nd vibration. Although one curious thing shows up is that Uranus is at 27 degrees, Pluto is at 27 degrees, Neptune is at 25.5 degrees. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are at almost the same degree. If I do a time adjust 6 hours earlier, the Uranus, Pluto, Neptune still connected. And if I go back to her time of birth and 6 hours later, the Uranus, where is it? Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are still connected. I mean, they're different colors, red and green. here later in the day we get a Mars, Uranus, Neptune. Well, maybe let me take that back. Maybe she was born later in the day, around 6 p.m. She'd have a Mars, Uranus, Neptune grand trine. That would make sense because we're expecting this leader, this person who's one of the first people to storm in. Among the first, she was in the front. She got shot. She died from it. She's highly motivated. We're expecting that she's resonating to the 13 or 52 vibration, which means she would have these planets in her chart and they would get triggered by transits. But, we don't know what time she's born, but Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are connected in 13 vibration throughout most of the day. That's probably involved. And just for fun, we'll look at a bi-wheel. I say just for fun because we're not expecting to see a whole lot without an accurate birth time. And something dramatic shows up. Oh my gosh. Wow. So we got a little bit lucky that, again, usually you won't see anything without a birth time. But something shows up, and I've got it illustrated in the PowerPoint. Let me show it to you here in the PowerPoint. Here's the 13 vibration chart with the Sun, Mars, Jupiter. I already showed you. Trine Neptune. Here's the what is this? This is a bi-wheel of the 13 vibration event and natal. And there's a little bit going on. Mars, transiting Mars is on her Jupiter. Neptune opposition. A little bit. Not enough to indicate that she would be so passionate and driven about this. We're not expecting to understand her in any detail because we don't have a birth time. But oh my gosh, look at this. This is her 52 vibration chart showing the Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune all between 25 and 27 degrees. This is it. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. In the first video or second video, first video in this 3-part series, I emphasized that on the event, this break-in to the White House, one of the key things in the sky is a Mars, Uranus, Neptune in 52 vibration with Mars at the midpoint. Now this we have the birth time for. This is the event. This is for 3 p.m., January 6th. And that transiting Mars, it's at the midpoint of Uranus, Neptune, is opposition her Uranus to the minute. It's got a 2-minute orb. And we can time adjust it. And we can time adjust her chart because we don't know what time she's born. And the Uranus moves, we can look at it. It doesn't move very much. Let's go to her 52 vibration chart. Here's the bi-wheel. Her natal Uranus at 27.5 Capricorn, exactly opposition transiting Mars at 27.5 Cancer. If I time adjust her chart 6 hours earlier, then her Uranus goes to 27 Capricorn. The orb of transiting Mars becomes half a degree. So this is what happens. If she was born 6 hours earlier, the transiting Mars has an orb of half a degree opposition to natal Uranus. If she's born 6 hours later, it's also half a degree. So if she's born 12 hours earlier, it's going to have a 1 degree orb. It's still tight. No matter what time of day she was born, transiting Mars was on her Uranus. But if she's born several days earlier or 7 days later, it's not there. So it's fairly specific to somebody born on the day she was born. That Uranus, and her Uranus is undoubtedly going to show up if we have her birth time as being involved in a planetary configuration. Remember, it takes more than 2 planets. The bottom line is this. Let me summarize. On the event chart, Mars at Uranus, Neptune in 52 vibration is critical. That Mars at the midpoint, right on her Uranus. Now, you're all students of astrology. I don't need to explain this to you. Mars, Uranus. We've done accident research, accidents where people die. Mars, Uranus. impulsiveness, transit to natal, there it is. And she's impulsive, fired up, spontaneous. I mean, she's just charged up, leading this charge into the White House, and she gets shot. Mars, Uranus, no matter what time she was born, very, very tight. It's amazing. So when, hopefully her birth time will be revealed at some point, we'll get the details of this more exact. And when we do, we'll see that it's more than just her Uranus. Guaranteed. Because vibrational astrology works. And once you find the configurations, it'll all fit together. Anyway, it's amazing. Wow. So concluding comments before we look at January 20, it never ceases to amaze me how well vibrational astrology works. And by the way, I feel comfortable making these videos for subscribers at Astrology DC, just telling you bluntly and straightly what's going on with vibrational astrology. This is amazing. I'm hesitant to just go out to the general public and say that. They might think I'm bragging or exaggerating. But you know, everybody who's subscribing, you're motivated. You're subscribing. You're paying to do this. You're taking the time to explore this stuff. It's not about me. It's not about bragging. Not about exaggerating. It's about vibrational astrology. This is exciting. This is just amazing that we can look at these specific events, a major event, and there'll be volumes and volumes of astrologers writing about it. And, you know, there can be great insights from other systems of astrology, but the vibrational astrology is something new and exciting that's revealing whole new layers of information. And then we have very strong research evidence for as well. Anyway, it's a breakthrough technology. It's a bit ahead of its time, but hopefully, even though it'll take some time probably for people to realize what this vibrational astrology is as we do more and more research and the evidence builds. I'm looking forward to a time when high-level professional environments begin to use VA. And if we could consult the security agencies and so on, we could help them. And that's what we'll do right now. I'll show you January 20. Last thing we'll do. January 20, let's look at it. Here's the chart for January 20. That's the chart itself. And what we're really interested in are midpoint structures and vibrational charts. Here's the 13 vibration chart. But what I want, and there's a Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune. Look how thick the lines are. The Jupiter-Neptune opposition in the 13 vibration chart is still there on January 20. I didn't go through to see if it moves in and out of orb or what's going on, or if it's just slow moving. But the Jupiter-Neptune is still there. That was there January 5th. And remember that in the January 6th chart, let me go back to it. January 6th, 13 vibration. Oh, it's not Jupiter-Neptune. It's Mars-Saturn-Neptune. Mars-Saturn-Neptune. No, it's not there. So let me clarify this. On January 6th, on January 6th, when people broke into the White House, there was a Mars-Saturn-Neptune. And I talked about what that means in 13 vibration. On Inauguration Day, instead of Mars, Saturn, Neptune, there's Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune. What's the difference between Mars, Saturn, Neptune? Oh, there's the thing that they have in common, Saturn, Neptune. So there's a Saturn, Neptune sesquiquadrat on Inauguration Day. On the break-in day, there was a Saturn trine Neptune. So the pattern is actually more striking on Inauguration Day. It's all thick red, same color, all very thick, all very exact. A Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune. What does it mean? What does it mean that on Inauguration Day, 13 vibration becomes Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune? It means that the Trump supporters who are on 13 vibration, They are going to be doing what? Planning and organizing, getting ready for the next election for 2022, the next presidential election 2024. They're going to be planning, designing, scheming. They're not as inclined to the same kinds of things that they did on January 6th. It's more of a Jupiter thing. Instead of Mars, Saturn, Neptune, it's Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune. Jupiter, Saturn means design, planning. Jupiter, Neptune means vision, dreams. And Saturn, Neptune means make them real. So they're going to be planning, designing, developing. They'll probably be having meetings, organizing, and getting ready, and forming maybe a new organization, almost like a new political party that will operate outside the system. So that's what they're going to be doing there. Now, let me show you this, the 8 vibration chart. This is the 8 vibration chart, which is just a general thing, not specific to Republicans, but what's going on. And look at this chart. Saturn is conjunct Neptune with a 1-minute orb. This is for 12 noon. For 12 noon on January 20th, in the 8 vibration chart, the basic chart of motivation and drive, Saturn and Neptune are conjunct with a 1-minute orb. And Mars and Uranus are conjunct with a 1/2 degree orb. Very, very tightly conjunct. Now, let's go 3 hours later, and let me show you what happens 3 hours or 4 hours later. I'm going to go to time adjust and go 1 hour later, and you watch the moon move. So this is for 12 noon. 1 hour later, it jumps around, so you see where it ends. Oh, no, that's 6 hours later. Sorry. I got this on 6. Let's go 1 hour later. Okay, this is 12 noon. 1 hour later, 1 p.m., it jumps around. So the moon is approaching the sun. 2 hours later, it's going to get closer. It's 7 degrees before the sun. 3 hours later, it's 3 degrees before the sun. 4 hours later, it's together. So at 4 p.m., Sun and Moon are conjunct in the 8 vibration chart. Mars and Uranus are conjunct, and Saturn and Neptune are conjunct. At 4 p.m., there are 3 conjunctions. Let me cancel out of this. I entered this as separate charts here. So here's the 4 p.m. chart, and what's happening is that Mars and Uranus are conjunct exactly on Inauguration Day. Saturn and Neptune are semi-square. This is the natal chart, not a harmonic chart. This is for 4 p.m. Saturn and Neptune are semi-square with a 1-minute orb. Wow. Saturn and Neptune semi-square with a 1-minute orb. Mars and Uranus conjunct with a 1-minute orb. What we found in our research is that events are triggered by exact aspects or by large configurations. These things are exact on the afternoon of Inauguration Day. And Sun is square Moon at 4 p.m. Now here's what makes it really dramatic. When we look at the 8 vibration chart and we look at the midpoint structures, I'll stretch this out so you can read it. Look how odd this looks. That Saturn and Neptune make a huge number of midpoint structures. I'll pull up a pop-up wheel. What's happening? This is really extraordinary. What's happening at 4 p.m.? Make this a little bigger. At 4 p.m., this Saturn and Neptune at 1 degree Capricorn in the 8 vibration chart is directly between the other 2 conjunctions. In the 8 vibration chart, Saturn-Neptune conjunction is directly in between the Sun-Moon conjunction and the Mars-Uranus conjunction. So Neptune is at Sun-Mars, Sun Uranus, Moon Mars, Moon Uranus. You got it? Saturn, same thing. And they're all a half a degree orb. I'm going to close this. Let's do the time adjust. I think an hour later, it's probably not there. It's probably specific. If I go 1 hour earlier, oh, some of it's still there. The moon has moved out. Oh yeah, the moon moves out. But the Saturn at Sun Mars and Sun Uranus, Neptune at Sun Mars, Sun Uranus. Okay, right. So the Saturn and Neptune are there. Moon is only there at 4 p.m. Let's see if it's there 30 minutes earlier. Let's go 30 minutes earlier. 30 minutes. And will Saturn still be at Moon Uranus? Neptune is still at Moon Uranus, 1.5 degrees. So it's going to last maybe a half hour or so. If I go 15 minutes earlier, we see that they're there. Saturn is at Moon Mars, Moon Uranus 1 degree, 1 degree. So it's going to last from about 3:45 to 4:15, only about a half hour. So right around 4 p.m., there's especially a likelihood of violence, of upsets, of things, weird things happening. Saturn, Neptune at Sun Mars, Sun Uranus, Moon Mars, Moon Uranus, and Saturn and Neptune will be at Sun Mars and Sun Uranus. Those are disturbing kinds of patterns. What I'm expecting is that there will be probably people that are, mentally and emotionally ill, acting out, or other philosophies, not necessarily Trump supporters. So it's a tricky day. My advice is to avoid getting into strong debates and avoid very public places, not just in DC, but anywhere, especially any city or gathering. Be safe on January 20th. I don't think it's going to be wild, crazy riots out of control, but there will be some things happening, most likely. There will be some eruptions. It's a powder keg day. Things are ready to explode, especially over the concerns about voter fraud and where, where the United States is heading and what our dream is. And a lot of people feel like, wow, a relief. We finally have, somebody who's president who's not delusional, who's not unhinged, who's at least a decent human being. And other people are saying, we lost it. And the tension will be high. And, over different ideals and visions of what the country is and what it should be. So let me read from my slides here. Important, avoid large public gatherings and avoid debate about voter fraud that can turn much more sinister than you expect. I cannot guarantee that there will be violence, but the probability is very high, especially in the late afternoon. Okay, so that's what's going on, and I don't expect it specifically from Trump supporters like we had on January 6th. Why? Because it's not 13 vibration. If it's 13 vibration, then that will be people on 13 vibration, which is like Trump supporters. 8 vibration means it's just a widespread, built-in, generic thing going on. So it'll come from different people. And why mentally ill? Because there's Uranus-Neptune kind of stuff going on. So anyway, it's a day to be safe. It's going to be tense. It's going to be a little bit tricky. And I'm hoping that security is on high alert and ready for these things, especially oddball, strange, unpredictable things. Not necessarily a organized effort. These problems will arise that are just, oddball people acting out. Okay, well, that's it, my friends. Just an example of how we can use vibrational astrology to understand events. I hope this series of 3 videos helps you understand how to answer questions like what's going on with an event. Look at the vibrations we expect, look at the details of what's going on, feel what's going on, and look at the connections between them. Be aware of the importance of both aspects and midpoint structures. I'm just summarizing some key points of what we've covered. Okay. Thank you very much for listening, my friends. God bless. Namaste.